Canto 34. Summary. Our travelers have finally reached the center of the abyss. The pilgrim steps into the final section of Coctus, Judaica, where the betrayers of lords and benefactors suffer. All the souls here are thoroughly submerged beneath the ice in various positions, all except 3. When Dante and Virgil stand before Satan, also known as Dis, the one for whom the city of Dis is named, Dante feels like he is undone. I did not die, nor did I stay alive, he says. He is standing at the center of the entire universe, at the point furthest from God, before a giant monster. The first thing the pilgrim notes about Satan is his sheer size. The height of the giants they just left, Nimrod, etc., doesn't even compare to the length of Satan's forearm. If the giants are somewhere around 70 to 80 feet tall, that might put Satan's forearm at about 90 feet long, which means he is enormous, perhaps in the neighborhood of 250 feet tall, though only a third of him is seen above the ice. Furthermore, the fallen angel has 3 giant heads, each with a mouth eternally chewing a sinner. In the middle mouth, Judas Iscariot is punished for betraying Jesus. In the 2 mouths on either side are Brutus and Cassius, the primary betrayers of Julius Caesar. After taking in this gruesome spectacle for a quick minute, Virgil tells Dante that it is time to go. The pilgrim hops on the Roman poet's back, and they start climbing down Satan's hairy side. Interestingly, it seems the ice comes up to his hair, and not all the way to his skin, for there is space enough between the tufts of hair for the travelers to climb down through the ice. They start around the middle of his chest and climb down the side of his stomach. When they get to his hips, the very center of his body, and thus the exact center of the earth cosmos, Virgil reaches down to the hair just beyond his feet and pulls himself up. He then starts to climb upwards. Dante is thoroughly confused. When they get just a bit further on, they come to an open cavern and a ledge. Virgil places Dante on the ledge and then joins him, stepping off the hairy legs of Satan. Dante is bewildered. He had expected to see hell again, since they were climbing up, but instead he sees the devilish legs reaching up to Satan's feet. What has happened? They have, of course, crossed the center point of gravity. As an aside, not only did the ancients and medievals know the earth was round, they also knew that large bodies of matter attracted the mass of smaller bodies of matter, and the main place of that attraction was the center of that body's matter. Thus, the center of the earth is the center of its gravitational pull. They are now in the southern hemisphere, climbing up to the opposite side of the world, which means that time has shifted back 12 hours. They arrived at Judaica at nightfall, around 6 p.m. It takes them about an hour and a half to reach the ledge where Dante asks his questions, which would put them at 7:30 p.m. in northern hemisphere time. But now that they have crossed the center of the earth, the clock has moved back by 12 hours, meaning that it is 7:30 a.m. on the same day, Holy Saturday, which is what is meant by mid-tierce. Here, something of Dante's mythos has to be explained. In this poetic construct, when the world was made, God put dry land in every region of the globe. When Satan fell from heaven, read Isaiah 14:12-15, he fell at the exact opposite spot from what would become Jerusalem. However, the land that was there, fearing this fallen angel, fled down into the ocean and pushed its way up into the land under the future Jerusalem, thus raising the level of the Middle East. Satan therefore fell through the seas and into his tomb, where he was lodged at the very center. More earth, which was surrounding the place where Satan fell, also fled, but that bit of land fled upwards, out of the water and into the air of the southern hemisphere, leaving the natural cellar the travelers find. This second displacement of land, as we will discover in the next canticle, is what formed Mount Purgatory. The travelers climb up a small canyon carved by a little stream, perhaps from the river Lethe on top of Mount Purgatory. It would be fitting for the memory of sin washed away in that river to be taken down here to hell, but Dante nowhere discusses that clearly. At long last, climbing up and out, they stand beneath the stars. Canto 34. Judaica. Vexilla regis prodeunt inferni, toward us. Therefore keep looking out in front, said my master, if you recognize him. As a windmill, when a heavy fog breathes, or when our northern hemisphere grows dark, appears in the distance, turned by the wind. One such building just then I seemed to see. Then, because of the wind, I shrank behind my guide, for there was no other dugout. I write this in a meter with fear, but I already was there where the shades submerged were easily seen as if straw in glass. Some were lying down, and others stood erect, this one with his head up, that one his feet. Some bent their faces to their feet like bows. When we had gone a bit further, so that it gave my master pleasure to show me the creature who had the beautiful mien, he stepped aside, bade me be still, and said, "Behold this, and behold the place where now you need to arm yourself with fortitude." How I then became frozen and feeble, do not ask, reader. I do not write it. Every spoken word would not be enough. I did not die, nor did I stay alive. If you have some genius, think for yourself what I became, deprived of life and death. The emperor of the woeful kingdom, from the breast upwards, stuck out of the ice. I am closer to the size of giants than the giants are to one of his arms. Now understand what the whole has to be that is proportionate to such a part. If he, once so fair and now so ugly, raised his brow in pride against his Maker, it is fitting all grief from him must flow. Oh, how it seemed to me a great marvel when I saw his head with the 3 faces. There was one in front, and that vermilion. The other 2 were there, joined to this one just above the middle of each shoulder, and all 3 joined themselves above the crest. The right one seemed between white and yellow. The sight of the left one was such as those who come from that place whence the Nile flows down. Beneath each face extended 2 great wings, such as were fitting to a massive bird. I never saw such immense sails at sea. They had no feathers, but were in manner like wings of bats. He was fluttering them, such that 3 winds were shooting forth from him. In this way, all Cocytus was frozen. With 6 eyes he was weeping, down 3 chins dribbled the tears and slather, mixed with blood. In each mouth he was crunching a sinner with his teeth, like a scutcher beating flax, making the 3 souls suffer together. For him in front, the biting was nothing compared to the scratching that left his back at times utterly bereft of the skin. "That soul there above," said my master, "is Judas Iscariot, whose pain is the greatest. With head inside he flaps his legs. Of the other 2 whose heads are inside, he that hangs from the black mouth is Brutus. See how he writhes without making a word. The other is Cassius, who looks strong. But the night rises again. It is time to depart, for we have seen everything." I clutched his neck, as was pleasing to him. Watching, he seized upon the time and place, and when the wings had opened up enough, he caught hold of the woolly side, and then from clump to clump he descended below between the bushy hair and frozen crust. Coming to the place where the thigh pivots, at the wide part of the hips, my leader, with great exertion and difficulty, turned his head down to where his legs had been, taking hold of the hair as one who climbs, and I thought we were heading back to hell. "Now you must persevere, for by such stairs," said my master, panting as one fatigued, "one needs to leave behind so much evil." Then he went out through a hole in the rock, and set me down upon the edge to sit, and with careful step brought himself to me. I lifted my eyes, believing to see Lucifer, as I had left him. Instead, I saw him with his legs shooting upwards. If in that moment I became troubled, let the bumpkins consider, who see not what that point is that I had just then passed. "Get up," my master said, "up on your feet. The way is long and the journey is bad. Already to mid-tierce the sun returns." That was no stroll through a palace hallway, where we were, but a natural cellar, with uneven ground and a need for light. "Before I uproot myself from this void, master mine," I said when I was standing, "speak, and draw me somewhat from my error. Where's the ice? How is it this one is fixed upside down, and how, in such a short time, has the sun journeyed from night to morning? And he, You still imagine you are on that side of center, where I climbed the hair of that wicked worm that bores through the world. That is where you were, while I descended. When I turned myself down, you passed the point to which the mass from everywhere is drawn. You have come to the southern hemisphere, opposite to the one that is covered by the great dry land, under whose summit the man who was born and lived without sin was consumed. You stand on a little sphere, the other face of which is Judica. Here is morning, when it is evening there. This one, whose hair made for us a ladder, he is still fixed, just as he was before. On this side he fell downward from heaven, and the earth that one time was gathered here, for fear of him, made a veil of the sea, and came to our hemisphere, and perhaps, to flee him, that which on this side appears left this place here empty and fled upwards. There is down below, as far removed from Beelzebub as his tomb is pushed out, a place known not by sight, but by the sound of a little rivulet that descends there, down along the hollow of the rock, eroded by its gentle, winding course. My leader and I, through that hidden way, entered to return to the shining world, and without caring to take any rest, we climbed upwards, he first and I second, until I saw, through a round opening, the beautiful things conveyed by heaven. We then came out and saw once more the stars.